Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Are there any items to add to the agenda this evening? No items to be added. Need a motion to accept the agenda.
So
Moved by Councillor Boucher. Is there a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Martel. Discussion. Motion's called. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion carried. Discussion. Questions called. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion carried. On to number 3 on the agenda, review of the minutes for February the 12th, 2018. It's been moved by Councillor Boucher to approve the minutes of February the 12th, 2018's Committee of the Whole. Is there a seconder?
Yep.
And seconded by Councillor McLean. On discussion. Questions called. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. On to motion carried. On to item 4, which is presentations. We have, who is doing? Jeff? Point Upper Development Committee, an update. Your mic?
It's actually an update from the Strait of Canso working group, not necessarily.
Okay. Your mic, Jeff? Yeah. This is July the 1st. Okay. Agreement will come into effect. So that's another 12 months. Good question. He's here tonight. Okay, you guys can begin.
Okay, thank you. CAO McIntyre and Council, thank you for the opportunity to provide an update. My name is Jeff Stanley with the Cape Breton Wren, and we are part of the Strait of Canso working group. I'll give you a little bit of background on that. I'd like to just introduce some colleagues, Amanda Mumbercat from the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce and Karen Malcolm from ACOA, who you all know. They are also part of the Strait of Canso working group, and other members of the working group would be John Beaton from the Eastern Strait Wren, Misty McDonald from the Eastern Strait Wren, Wanda McLean from Nova Scotia Business Inc., and Lynn Coffin from Nova Scotia Business Inc., who works out of the Antigonish office. Just like to take 10 minutes to give you an update on why we're here, why this quasi-organization has been formed, what our role is, and just really basically a short update, and then we can provide an opportunity for some questions afterwards. The process really initiated because we all know, and especially over the last 5 years, there's been lots of discussion around the Strait of Canso and the economic opportunity that it provides. It's certainly no mystery here at the Richmond Council how much economic opportunity that Point Tupper, as part of the Strait of Canso, provides to Council, not only in taxes but in the number of jobs and opportunities. But it's also a big economic driver around the Strait. And for the last several years, most of that conversation has been around port governance. And in December 2016, the mayors and wardens passed a motion to pursue port development and stop talking about governance and get to work on developing the port and looking at some marketing opportunities around the port in an industry-led process, which was key. So in April of 2017, there was an initial gathering of the industry stakeholders. You can see the list at the back of your package of the industry people that were invited to the session. And in that facilitated session, the industry stakeholders had an opportunity to provide input on a lot of issues, including development opportunities, marketing opportunities, what are some of the gaps, what are some of the threats that are happening around the port. And in the summer of 2017, the information was, over those last few months, though, the information from that industry-led, stakeholder session, it was compiled and developed into a framework. And in November of 2017, that framework was presented back to the industry to make sure that we heard what they were saying. So we have an industry-led stakeholder group, and then our group is the agency group, so to speak, that is the working group. And so we take the initiatives from the industry-led session, and we actually get the things done, get the work done. So in November of 2017, we went back and presented the framework, and just to make sure that we're all on the same page, we're going the right direction. And out of that session, we used software from Engage Nova Scotia. Some of you have possibly used it in the past. Each industry participant has a clicker, and when questions are asked in the presentation, they have an opportunity to weigh in, and we can collect the survey in real time. The information's posted right up so people can see, so we have very good statistics on what transpired at that meeting. Out of the 6 goals that were identified and the 25 objectives that were put together to advance those goals, 70% of the stakeholders supported the general goals of this group, and 85% of the stakeholders support the specific objectives. So it's not 100%, but in the first time in a long time, we have the majority of the industry around the strait all moving in the same direction. We identified the economic zone as a 5-kilometer economic zone, and you can see that in your second last page. And basically, it's still the Strait of Canso as the heart of the economic zone, and we're really trying to make sure that it's all businesses that are within that zone that have an opportunity to benefit from having a bustling Strait of Canso. So we have been working on the working group has been meeting on a weekly basis. We've now moved into meeting every second week. We have a work plan. There's a framework that's been basically approved from the lead group, and we are now working towards knocking some of these objectives off the list. And so, for example, one of the goals was to identify some opportunities and gaps from a marketing perspective. Why do businesses do businesses around the strait? And so to find that out, we've been meeting with specific businesses who are part of this economic zone, and Basically, we go in, try to learn a little bit more about their business. Why is the Strait area important to them? Why have they chose this area? Are there some synergies that can be used between their business and other businesses? And so we've been diligently putting this together over the last 3 or 4 months. And so now we have a work plan. It's a logic model format with clear measurables. We're developing a communication plan, so the stakeholders are in the loop, including yourselves. You guys are part of this lead group. You've been invited and will continue to be invited at every chance that we meet. The last meeting, the group identified that they wanted to meet a minimum of 3 times a year and possibly 4 times a year. The ultimate goal is to be able to take the Strait of Canso and package it into a real nice marketing plan and actually go out and do some investment attraction from one side of the Strait to the other. How can municipalities help? They can help in a couple ways. They can continue to support the focus on the industry-led development. Sometimes there's mixed messages that come out of the direction for the Strait of Canso, and because the mayors and wardens wanted it to be a industry-led focus, we would encourage you to support the industry in that. Most of those industries for Richmond County would be in the Point Tupper area, but we would certainly encourage you to support what your industry partners are saying. And the other way is to continue to support the REN work, the Cape Breton REN, Eastern Strait REN, and the work that the other agencies are doing to continue to move this agenda forward. So it's the working group is very much NSBI, ACOA, the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce, and the RENs have put together some staff to keep to knock off the objectives and goals for the Strait Area or the Strait of Canso working group. Included in your package are the economic development goals and objectives. There's no sense of us going through each one of them. We've communicated this through email on several occasions, but we would really encourage you to do that. You will see on page 2 and page 3 the 6 goals and the objectives that follow. You'll see goal 6, new business investment, is to be attracted to the Strait of Canso economic zone. That's the ultimate goal that we're shooting for. We know that there's been a lot of studies done on this area in the past. Karen Malcolm did some research. I think she was over in Mulgrave and going through some of the archives there, and there were over 600 studies that were done over a course of maybe 30 or 40 years on the benefits that the Strait of Canso can provide to the municipalities. So we've taken all those, done a very quick read through them. We split those out and did a very small summary on each one just to make sure that they were relevant. We brought those 600 studies down to 60 to take that we felt that were more relevant to the whole development process. So that's been done, and we're just now in the process still of meeting with individual businesses around the Strait to just better understand what they do and how we can be of assistance, and to really determine some of the opportunities and the gaps that exist for the Strait of Canso. So I think that's it. Again, it's just a short update. Certainly would open this up for some questions, and they can be addressed either to me or Amanda or Karen as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions? Jeff, you speak of the lead stakeholder group,
Yeah.
and who is that? And then you speak of a working group, and then we have the stakeholder list. So, who's the working group? Are they part of the stakeholders?
No, the lead group is the culmination of this whole stakeholder list. So all these groups are invited to participate in as the lead stakeholder group. Now, some of them will be there from time to time.
Is that the working group?
No, the working group is myself, Amanda, Karen, John Beaton, and Misty and Wanda. So it's a representation of NSBI, ACOA, the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce, the Eastern Strait Wren, and the Cape Breton Wren.
Okay.
Primarily, the reason for that is that the stakeholders that are attending this all have their own businesses to run, so they're giving us the direction, and then we're doing the work.
Okay.
Okay.
And the lead stakeholder, you said, is
It's everyone on that
everybody
list.
in the list?
Yeah.
Okay. And the last meeting was February with that group, between you guys and the group?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So the objectives are under the goals?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
starting page 2, there's 6 goals with the objectives and timeframes underneath. You can see that the timeframes are fairly short.
So the working group is you guys, and one of the objectives is established a Strait of Canso working group,
Yeah,
and consult with the lead, develop the mission. So that's done, or is this?
yeah,
part of it
a
here?
lot of that's done. Some of this work is already done. We've developed a vision, mission, values, and action plan. So there's a package, and I think that information's been communicated back. But we could make sure that now that you've had this short presentation,
Yeah.
it might be more meaningful to resend that, and then everybody can get a chance to take a look at the.
Okay. And you're down as the Point Upper Development Committee. So the committee we met the other day.
That's actually the
Point Upper
I
Development.
probably communicated that wrong.
Okay. Okay. So it's just not to confuse the two of them.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Martel?
Just wondering, you mentioned that there was 600 surveys over 30 years. Just wondering what the obstacles are that, after all these studies, there hasn't been anything done. What seems to be the issue that, not moving forward, they're studying and studying and studying, but there's not really any development?
Yeah. Well, I guess in all fairness, someone might study the effectiveness of the rail line, for example. That could be one. Another one could be the opportunities that an ammonia plant would bring, and so they would focus on that, or carbonite, or another natural mineral that could be harvested here. And so they might just take a look at some of those individually, and if there's no opportunity there at the time, or it gets shelved and it sits there, and 20 years goes by, and a lot of the information is still relevant. But out of that 600 plus studies that were done, there's probably less than 20 that we feel that we can go through and actually use for the development purposes.
Can I add something?
Yes, go ahead, Amanda.
Amanda, yeah, can you come to the mic, and then for the viewers? You can turn on the mic, second mic, if you want.
So
Or-
one of the things that that we've also noted is that a lot of the studies are really related to, opportunities that we know exist. So they're LNG related. They're related to district heating. They're related to energy, that kind of thing. So there are results that we're seeing because of those studies and because of the opportunities that were identified. Things that I think still, one big one I think that still remains for us to tackle is that transshipment opportunity and all of the work and the study that's been done around that, and hopefully we will be getting there soon. But that, so there's examples of studies that are related to opportunities that have been developed, but then there's some that are still yet to be developed. So it's a lot of information.
There certainly seems to be a willingness and a lot of planning, but there's not seems to be any drivers. So I guess maybe now that you guys are the working group, there might be some development happening that something will come to fruition.
Well, we hope so. And I think at the end of the day, when you don't have industry leading a process, you can't expect there to be concrete investment happening because it's industry that does the investing. It's not government, it's not chambers, or, you know what I mean? It's got to be industry led. And so I think this new focus is hopefully going to be a game changer for the Strait of Canso.
Hopefully. Thank you.
No, that's good.
Any more questions? Well, thank you, Jeff, Amanda, and Karen, I guess. Yep.
Karen, thank you. And we'll make sure that the latest of the information gets sent back out to you, okay?
Okay. Moving on to item 5, which is correspondence. Ready? Item 5A, the Eastern District Planning Commission.
So with a deadline of July 1st, 2018 to make decisions on whether Antigonish will be included in the Eastern District Planning Commission, that's been brought forward to us this evening. It was brought forward in the last meeting and deferred to this meeting. We do have John Bain here from EDPC to answer some questions. But ultimately, what this intermunicipal agreement is all about is the inclusion of Antigonish County into the EDPC network, or Antigonish Town. Sorry about that. The working group that was working with EDPC consisted of CAOs and some CFOs who looked at the numbers regarding the inclusion of the town of Antigonish, and one of the underlying aspects was that there should not be an overall financial impact to any of the current partners. No increase in costs if there was a new partner included, and that there would be additional cost associated with the town of Antigonish coming into EDPC. There would be an increase in staff, and I'm sure John can talk about that this evening. But there would be an increase in staff at EDPC. But again, the underlying factor that related to the working group was that no increased cost to the other participants. And so at the end of the day, that's what happened. There is no increased cost to the County of Richmond. And Antigonish will move into on a 3-year term. And over that period, they will assess their involvement with EDPC. And of course, the rest of the partners will also assess how things move forward and whether costs will remain stable or just deal with CPI increases year to year or whatever. So, so what we're dealing with tonight is whether we as a partner in EDPC will recommend and approve the inclusion of the town of Antigonish in the EDPC network. So that's what we're dealing with this evening.
Any comments or concerns?
John's here.
And if there's questions, we can get John to come up. Councillor Boucher? John.
Thank you, Ken, for that introduction. I can give you a really quick overview of what this agreement's about as well. Back in May, so a year ago, the town of Antigonish requested to join district planning, and as your CAO has noted, we've spent the year looking at bringing them into the commission. The board was clear all along, again, as your CAO has pointed out, that there would be no increase. So if you've got the intermunicipal agreement in front of you, that's a specific clause in the agreement. So it's a 3-year agreement, and there's a specific no increase clause which protects our existing membership from any increases that are attributed to the town of Antigonish. So, for example, I know already that our insurance, by bringing the town in, is going to increase. Well, that increase in the insurance is going to be paid completely by the town of Antigonish. And there shouldn't be any decline in services. That's one of the concerns that was raised. And if anything, I think adding a few more staff will give us a deeper bench, as it were, and so that the quality of service should, in fact, increase. There is no requirement that we keep any of the town's employees. So if we are filling positions, they would be open competitions. Both the commission solicitor and our insurers' legal counsel reviewed the agreement, and the indemnity clause that's added in Section 40 and 41 was added because of the review by our solicitor and again by our insurer's solicitor. Also, there's one of the reasons why liability became an issue, because there are going to be buildings that are under construction now and under a series of inspections at this moment by the town that if they come in July 1st, that we will be taking over responsibility for those inspections. The largest of that is the Mulrooney Center, which is a very large a building. So there was some concern that we be sure that we would protect the commission from any possibility of liability for inspections that were carried out prior to what we're hoping is the July 1st date. And that indemnity clause is in there. Related to that, building permit fees for buildings that have already been permitted by the town, that there will be a continuation of inspections. We will be getting the permit fees at the prorated rate. So whatever percentage is left, we would get there's also accumulated surplus that the commission is carrying forward. So from year to year, we've been growing a bit of a surplus, and the town of Antigonish will be required to pay into that surplus. So if they come into the commission, our audited report of this year will give us a number, and that's, again, written into the agreement. 30A of the agreement talks about that's recognition of the fact that there has been financial and physical capital that has been accumulated by the commission over the years that they would benefit from. So we are asking them as part of the agreement to pay into that, so they pay into that surplus. It's been a year process. We've just discussed it at every board meeting of the commission over the last year. So far, Victoria County, Antigonish County, and Inverness County have all agreed to the amendments proposed. All that is left is Richmond County and the town of Port Hawkesbury. I'm going to the town of Port Hawkesbury's Committee of the Whole tomorrow. If you've got any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer those.
Councillor Boucher.
Thank you, Warden Marshall. John, the question I have is how much is Antigonish paying to join into the Eastern District Planning Commission?
So we've
So Richmond County pays $175,000. What's Antigonish going to pay?
Antigonish Town.
Yes.
I can give you that number. I don't have the budget right in front of me, but it is based on the funding formula and their uniform assessment, and it's adjusted, the funding formula is adjusted so that they come in at a rate that is not costing the other units. I don't know the number off the top of my head, though, Councillor.
I guess you're going around my question, John. I asked you. I'm sure you know offhand what they're going to pay you. You've discussed that.
I don't, but I can get that number for you.
Can you, please?
The main cost of bringing them on was 2 employees. So then we took that salary and added it in, and then prorated everything in the budget based on that incremental amount that the 2 employees would bring in, except for things like offices, like we're not going to pay any more for office rent. And
So the 2 employees, what's their position going to be that you're bringing in?
initially, the thought is that one will be a building inspector, fire inspector, and one will be a planner. But there is a possibility that we'll be able to, so at first, we're going to see how it works for the first little bit, before but it was based on those 2 positions. So the number that the town of Antigonish would be in for would be $133,440, plus their building permit fees, plus their development permit fees, plus their E911 funding.
Okay, thanks, John. Thank you, Warden.
Now, and I should say that that's based on a budget for the full year, right? So we're already out the first quarter because we didn't bring them in April 1st. So it would be a fraction of that for the remainder of the year and then moving forward at approximately that amount.
Any more questions? John, some concerns that I had and had them at the board meeting. You kind of mentioned their office rent and office costs are not going to be increased. But wouldn't you think they should be divided amongst the 6 instead of 5, and that the remainder should see a bit of a drop? The office expenses, if they're remaining the same, the 5 are paying a portion of that. And that's a concern I have. When you're starting to bring more in, others should see some savings. And my other question is, and don't take anything from it, in item 43, it says withdrawal by any participating municipality from the commission is governed by the act.
That's right.
Which act?
The act is defined at the beginning as, on page 1, means Municipal Government Act.
Okay. What date does that give any municipality to withdraw from the commission?
Okay,
Do we
so
go
the
by
municipal...
those rules? Because
Sure. So the
just-
Municipal Government Act requires that I have my budget to municipal units by January 15th of every year. To do that, I have to have my budget to my board at our, typically our November meeting. So at the November meeting, I have a budget for the next year for the board. At our in December, I meet with the CAOs and financial officers, depending on who's sent by the municipalities, to discuss that budget. Then it is discussed again at our January meeting, and on January 15th or before, you have a copy of my budget for the next year, and I've never missed that January 15th date. At that point, the municipalities have 2.5 months to give notice, so the end of March, that they are going to withdraw from the commission at the end of the next fiscal year.
But it doesn't affect that budget.
No, it doesn't. The time to affect that budget is when we discuss it in November.
Remember?
So, yeah,
Okay.
so there's, and this year, our budget basically came in the same as last year, and I think with your uniform assessments, Richmond County's contribution dropped.
Then below that, you have this agreement shall have effect on from and after July 1st. So if it's a new intermunicipal service agreement, when is the date? It's still April 1st. So if a municipality does not give you notice by March 31st, because Antigonish now is going to be going from July 1st to June. So does it change for them a deadline? Do they still have to give it as per the Act, March 31st?
Yeah, they would have to give it per the Act if they were going to leave this agreement. But this agreement basically has a self-destruct clause in it. At the end of 3 years, Town of Antigonish is out. The agreement is written so that if nothing happens, at the end of the 3 years, they're out. And this is the same as what we did for the County of Antigonish, though with the County of Antigonish, it was only a 1 year. And so what that does is it requires us in the 3 years, towards the end of the 3 years, to negotiate a new agreement with respect to the Town of Antigonish.
So,
And hopefully at that point, with their building permit revenues, which they're very close to the border of being, something like the Mulrooney Center and some of the stuff that happens on the university campus can tip the scales in their favor, that they would be contributing to the budget such that the units are seeing a decrease in their
the following year.
contribution. Yeah, it depends on we estimate our permits the year before because of that January 15th date. So for them, they could leave the agreement. So your question, Warden, was if they want to leave before the 3 years, they are under the same obligations as everybody else. So March 31st of next year, they would be giving notice for the next year. So at the most, it would shorten the agreement a year for them.
So why was it different for them in the County of Antigonish as
Well,
opposed to
well,
the
we-
other four, that the agreement for the other four just seemed to go in perpetuity? They have to give notice, whereas two came in that they had a contract that self-destructed. What's the
So-
difference if
so
they all
yeah, so
follow
the
the
town of
Act? If
so
they
the-
all follow the Act, why do other municipalities not have to renegotiate to get back in the commission? What made four different than the last two?
Okay, so when Victoria County came in, they came in under the just straight in. When Antigonish County came in, they wanted that 1 year trial period to see if the commission was going to work for them. And Antigonish County's 1 year, they felt that we did. And then later on, as you're aware, they hired outside consultants to review their membership in the commission, and that outside consultant recommended them stay in. They're our largest contributor to the commission. But we wanted Antigonish County in because of their high uniform assessment, right? So, and the 3 years for the town, I guess that was through mutual negotiations over the year.
So in 3 years, they can just walk away. They don't even
At
have to
3
give you
years,
notice.
at 3 years, it's over. The agreement states that if we don't negotiate something new, they're out. And so you
Yeah.
see,
So you have your budget prepared in
20.
November. You have your budget prepared in November,
that's correct.
and
Or, yeah,
you provide that December, January, per se, and all of a sudden, come June, Antigonish just does not renegotiate with you. Your budget is made with the intention, or will you be negotiating well before June?
Oh, yeah, no. You'll be aware that Richmond County gave notice 1 year to leave
But they
district
don't have to
planning.
give notice, though.
No,
can
they
go
would,
right-
they would, no, they don't have to give, well, for all intents and purposes, they have given 3 years' notice. Because that's what the
But
agreement.
you'll have your budget made in November, given to the CFOs, CAOs, December, given to the board, January. Then people have 2 months to decide if they're going to stay in the following year. But these guys can go right till June 29th, not even give you notice, and then decide to walk away. So what does that do in that fiscal year for the remainder? Because you're going to have an employee.
Yeah, well, I would be
You'd be on it
doing
before
two,
that.
well, I'd be doing 2 budgets. I'd be doing a budget with the town, and I'm doing a budget without the town. But I suspect I'm going to have to do that every year while this agreement's in place anyway, because there's a specific clause that says there can't be any increase to the other units because of Antigonish. So what I'm going to have to show you is, okay, here's our budget without the town, even though they're part of it, and here's the budget with it, and then that's adjusted so that there's no increases with the budget without the town. It's
So
going to be
they'll
it's going to be a little bit complicated, but I think that's the only way to do it, to meet that clause.
So only theirs will increase.
Sorry?
Only the town of Antigonish will increase then over the next 3 years, 2 years?
No,
Well, if we don't have an increase, then would it only be theirs that would increase?
well, the increases that are attributed to the town of Antigonish are all the town of Antigonish's responsibility. But so I will do
Well,
a
well, the-
budget, so
the
I will do a
increases,
budget
yes.
next year without the
Yep.
town of Antigonish in
Okay.
it. And there may be, well, I expect there'll be an increase in that budget over this year's budget. That's been our experience, 1% or 2%. You know, it's not being outrageous by any means. And then there's a second budget that's going to be the budget with the town in, and I'm going to have to adjust that budget so that the number in the second budget with the town is at least the same as the budget without the town. That's what that clause is.
The number for the other 5 units.
That's right. So for the 3 years.
So they
But
will
I
pay
think,
the
what
increase.
I'm expecting is that what we're going to find out is that the town of Antigonish building permit revenues are higher than what we were expecting. I know there's, besides the Mulrooney building, another substantial development proposed for St. Avax. We would get permit revenues for that, and I think we're going to see that it's, or I hope we're going to see, that Antigonish can come in as a partner under the agreement like it is now, and it's going to continue.
But the room for them to grow is not as much as Antigonish County.
Yeah, that's true.
So we just wonder over the years. The concerns I have are, as I stated, the office. You think it should be divided. All the office expenses should be divided. It wouldn't be a big drop, but the other 5 should have seen it. And the final year that they can walk away and you provide a budget for us. That I guess if you're providing 2, there should be no difference, but you're going to have employees there, 2 extra employees for them. That what do you do with? If they decide on June 29th to not renew? Like, there's nothing in there that says they have to renew December of 2000
No, and that was deliberate. I mean,
Yeah.
because that does force us to negotiate a new agreement.
But they can
beyond
go
it.
right to the end and then walk away. Whereas
Oh, yeah,
the
but-
rest of
but
us
we
need
would
to
kn-
give
we
a
would
year.
know if I don't have an agreement before
But the budget is approved.
part way in that 3rd year.
But the budget would be approved, like with the rest
But
of
but
them.
the budget will be approved with no increase to the units,
Mhm.
each of those 3 years.
My question is, what do you do with the 2 employees? Who pays for them?
Well, I'd hire them on contracts, I guess.
Okay,
I
good.
don't know,
You're gonna do that.
Warden, it's,
Yeah. No, it's just concerns I have.
yeah.
It's not,
Yeah, no, I
you know.
appreciate
Yeah.
that. But I mean, I suspect I'd hire them on 3-year contracts.
Okay, you'll do that then. Okay. So then you'll look into the office part of it? 'Cause once we
I'm
sign this,
confused at what you're saying, because the offices doesn't change.
it doesn't change.
No,
The cost doesn't change.
yeah, we only
But
have,
that means that the other 5 are paying for it. If Antigonish only paid for the extras, they were of no advantage to come in for the remaining 5. That means the other 5 are paying the office expenses, you and the administrative staff, and the rent and the
okay,
heating.
so those capital expenses.
Should be
which-
divided amongst all 6.
And
Now,
that's in the agreement. So they're
then-
paying into that,
they're paying into the surplus, but they're not
which
paying
is,
into
which
that.
is, which is equipment and everything, right? It's not just, it's not a monetary surplus. It's the value of their furniture and,
It
so
is-
it's
I
all.
thought it was a monetary surplus,
No, it's a,
a capital.
yeah, it's capital, and it's a recognition of the accumulated surplus that's, and the investments that the units have put together. Yeah, it's not a dollar amount. It's a dollar amount, I suppose, if you closed up and sold everything, that's what you would get, right? I don't got the CA designation beside my name,
To get Jason in on this one.
but I think that's, you're not.
But again,
Yeah, but you're-
the office expenses are real.
And so they're paying into that, I think is what, I think if we're thinking the same thing, they're
Yeah.
paying into that. But office space, the units all provide an office space for me for no rent. So we're not paying for Harry's office.
No.
And we won't be paying for any office that we have in the town hall. But
That's not what I mean.
But Antigonish County was concerned that, actually, they didn't want to see for their contribution as staffing that office 5 days a week, because they were saying, well, you're going to give the town the same quality of service that you're giving in the county. So I think what we're going to end up doing is having a guy there one day and an employee there another day. So probably a Tuesday, Thursday thing. But they would be able to go to Beach Hill to get, and that's the way it is now. Like if somebody wants a building permit for Point Tupper, they just go into Hawkesbury. Or if they want to go into Bedeck, they can go into any of the offices to get,
Yeah, that's okay.
so.
But again, the 5 of us pay an administrative, which were the wages part. And I just thought that we should have seen a reduction there in that part of it.
Well, the instructions that I was given right from the beginning was
No increase.
no increase to the units, not a decrease.
At the bare
to
minimum, no increase. A
Yeah,
savings,
well,
if
they
anything.
were pretty clear, no increase to the units. When there was no, if the instruction had been a savings to the unit, then we would have negotiated on that. But what I was given was no, and that was very clear. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
Councilor
that was clear.
McLean
Yeah.
told me what Richmond County would do if there was an increase to the units.
Yeah.
So the agreement, so it's right in the agreement. I don't see this as a risk to any of our units.
Well, no, I'm
over
not
the
saying
next-
it's a risk, only in the final year.
Well, even then, I don't see the risk, Warden,
But
but I mean,
you'll have that solved. Councillor Boucher?
Yeah, thanks, Warden Marshall. I'm just wondering, John, these people, the town has a 3-year contract. What's the penalties if they break that contract themselves and you're stuck with 2 employees on a contract?
well, they're subject to the act. So for them, the same as any other unit, they would be, have to give the notice for that.
Yeah.
So what you're suggesting to me is that maybe I should make those contracts 1-year renewables. But I haven't,
No,
I don't see the town of Antigonish. The town of Antigonish sees the value in district planning. They see the quality of service we provide for the county, and they want in because they see it as a valuable service.
But I'm just wondering, John, why isn't there a clause in that contract to, if they do decide to back out in the middle of a year, you've already hired 2 people on contract, and you say yearly, you could be stuck with their salary, the commission could be stuck with their salary, those employees for for 6 months each.
Yeah, well, the only way for them to back out of the contract is according to the act, which would mean notice March 31st next year that they're leaving out of the contract the year after. So they're regardless, they're in the contract for 2 years. And if they break it, they leave before, which is,
I think that's what I'm saying, John. If they break the contract themselves and walk away from it, that's,
in accordance with the act.
yeah, who's going to take them to court for your expenses? Not the
Well,
municipal
you know,
government.
I guess I have some faith in,
The MGA,
in municipal governments.
I don't think so. You got more faith in them than I have in them. Anyway, thank you.
Treating an agreement with, I mean, this is not an insubstantial agreement, and for the town of Antigonish, it's a major shift for them. So for them to leave the commission after dissolving their planning department and being with us for 2 years and then dissolve the agreement, I think the political fallout for that in an election year would be substantial. I don't know.
Oh,
I think
was
the
that your idea behind the 3 years?
agreement-
Cage you, John. It's a good one. I didn't see that.
I'm,
I don't think that way. Not a
I'm,
politician.
Wouldn't work, the election's in 2 years.
Okay.
2020.
2020. Okay, I see that. Yeah. Any more questions? I guess we need a motion to, Deputy Warden Gayash?
Yeah, it's not a question. I just want to mention that I got no actual problems with the intermunicipal services agreement to head the town of Antigonish. And the reason for that is that there's no cost to Richmond County. And because there is no additional cost to Richmond County, I can't see myself going against this agreement. So I would like to make a motion that we accept the town of Antigonish into the intermunicipal services agreement.
It's been moved by Deputy Warden Gayash that we sign the intermunicipal agreement, I guess, adding the town of Antigonish. Is there a seconder?
Second.
A second by Councillor Boucher. On a discussion. Questions called. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion carried. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much, Council.
On to item 5B. Grants. We have 2 grants. The Almadam Small Option Society Type 3 Sponsorship Grant and the Royal Canadian Legion of Type 1 an Infrastructure Grant. Do we want to do them together, or did you want to speak on them, Jason? Sir, has everybody read them, or what they are? One is for 5,000, and I believe the other one is for 500 Special Olympics. So it's a sponsorship for someone. Yeah, for someone
Instead of
going to the
registered
Special Olympics. So we need a motion to approve. Want to do one at a time or 2?
Is it recommended for approval from your department?
Both of
Yes,
them are,
okay, then there's no problem. I move we accept both of them.
Okay, it's been moved by Councillor Boucher that we accept both the Type 3 grant for the Small Options Home, Almadam Small Options Society, $500, and for the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 110 in Lordways, a Type 1 infrastructure grant for $5,000, and that's for heat pumps, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, I second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Councillor Boucher, seconded by Councillor McLean. On discussion, Deputy Warden?
These grants are under the old system, right?
The new system.
Infrastructure,
The new system.
the new system or the
They're under new system, yeah.
new system? Okay, thank you.
Question on the motion.
Questions called. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion carried. On to item 6, which is a review of the checks for April 2018. Any questions? Email CAO or CFO. And to item 7, there's been no items added. On to item 8, the 15-minute question period. I do want to say we're going in camera for a legal issue with municipal property after the in-camera.
Move to go in camera.
Sorry, after the question period.
Move to go in question period.
We'll go back in camera. Bobby, did question?
Yes, Robbie Fougere, Petit de Gras. During the consultation carried out by Stantec prior to the restructuring of council, there had been some interest, I think, in the election of a warden at large. That issue was brought up during those
Mayor?
warden or mayor, yes, at large. And according to the MGA, council has an opportunity to request that, and it's of their choice if council wants to do that. But there's a stipulation as well in the MGA that this has to be done 9 months prior to an election. So I guess the point of my question is, having attended most council meetings since 2016 and prior even to 2016, but since 2016, I've not heard this issue discussed at the table. So I guess my question is this something that this council will be looking at or discussing and maybe even requesting that we ask for a warden or mayor elected at large?
Well, Robbie, really, it's not something I thought of. I know every 8 years, I think we have to do some review of the numbers on council. It's really, I guess it has to be done in front of the UARB, is it? But I mean, if it's something council wants to bring up for the public, I don't have an issue with it.
That's something that has been on my radar. I was aware of the 9 months, and time certainly flies by, but I think there was time, and I know that it's something that I've had on my own agenda as far as discussing with council to see what kind of direction we want to go in. But I think even more importantly than that, I think the residents of Richmond County should play a large part in how that's going to roll out, and whether or not the people would want to see a mayor or a warden at large, and how that should look at the next election.
I think that's the reason for my bringing it up now, because it's not something that you do on the spur of the moment, but if you start discussing it in 2018, and to agree with what Councillor McLean is saying, just because there was some talk of this, maybe it would be a right move to go into to test the water as to what the residents of Richmond County would prefer. And I think that's the reason I'm bringing it up tonight. So that you have enough time there's enough lead time to do the process and to do it right in terms of consulting with ratepayers.
Would you think district meetings or a questionnaire sent out, or how would be the better?
Well, that's, I haven't thought it out to that extent, but there would be, today with the technology we have, you could do it online, you could do it with district meetings, you could do it in a number of ways. But I guess my suggestion is that, it might be done prior to, like I say, if you want to respect the 9 month time frame, then I know we're in 2018, but time is a way of slipping by us. And I know the last time this came up, it was because of that time frame that it couldn't be entertained. So I guess that's the reason I'm bringing it up. And if I still have time, I'd have a second question.
Yeah.
Some time ago, and you're aware of this, I had asked if the salary and benefit schedule would be made public as a result of the reorganizational review. And at that time, I was given to understand that this would be put online. And to this point in time, I still don't see it, so I'm wondering if the benefits and salary of staff and elected officials as a result of the organizational review, if that's online somewhere and I can't find it, or if
It's not in with that, the final report?
No.
Okay. We'll look at that. I thought when you were speaking of that, you were going along the lines of the UNSM, what they post,
No.
because we weren't able to get that information yet until we finished. I think, Jason, you have that stuff all finished? Something that had to be done to the... It's done, okay. So, because you had once spoke about it being online.
Yeah, well, that's a different
Yeah.
a different issue altogether.
Okay, so we'll look at that then.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any more comments or concerns?
Move to go on camera.
Comments, okay. We'll go on camera in a minute or so. Okay, move this meeting back into regular session. Councillor Boucher.
Thank you,
Can
Warden
you
Marshall.
hit your mic again? Thank you.
No.
Thank you, Warden Marshall.
You need to hit your mic again. Thank you.
Thank you, Warden Marshall. I moved that the St. Peter's Fire Department building, number AAN 044049998, be sold to the highest bidder.
It's been moved by Councillor Boucher. And is there a seconder?
Yeah, second that.
It's moved by Councillor Boucher, seconded by Councillor McLean, that we sell the St. Peter's Fire Department property. I said 044049998.
Yes.
Okay, to the highest bidder.
Right.
Questions called. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Everybody raising? Motion carried. Councillor McLean.
I move that the committee recommend to council to accept the recommendation of the revenue manager and CFO, and that council authorize the revenue manager and CFO to determine a minimum acceptable bid on the four noted properties, and if these properties do not sell for the minimal acceptable bid, to proceed and sell the properties for any bid.
It's been moved by Councillor McLean that we accept the recommendation of the CFO
Second.
and the revenue property manager. It's been seconded by Councillor Boucher. On discussion. Questions called. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion carried. Need a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Moved by Councillor Boucher. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Martel. On discussion. Questions called. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Meeting adjourned.
Committee recommend to council to accept the recommendation of the revenue manager and CFO, and that council authorize the revenue manager and CFO to determine a minimum acceptable bid on the four noted properties, and if these properties do not sell for the minimal acceptable bid, to proceed and sell the properties for any bid.
It's been moved by Councillor McLean. Councillor McLean, that we accept the recommendation of the CFO
Second.
and the revenue property manager. It's been seconded by Councillor Boucher. On discussion. Questions called. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion carried. Need a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Moved by Councillor Boucher. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Martel. On discussion. Questions called. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Meeting adjourned.